Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 236 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where a couple of city boys are going to try to read a chapter with about 1 million different kinds of trees and shrubs.
Oh, I'll live the challenge, man. I've been pining over this chapter
no.
for weeks.
No.
It's about time.
Okay, stop already. Stop. That's it.
Oh, come on. I had like 6 more.
I'm sure you did.
All right.
We'll have plenty of time for those later.
And no, it's very wise of you to say that. You are the sage.
Oh, I knew that was coming. That's just terrible, man. Terrible.
All right. Well, folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the man of the West, who wouldn't know a saxifrage from a stone crop, Alan Sisto.
You know, actually, I saw the Stone Crops in concert once, and I'm pretty sure one of them played a saxifrage.
I wouldn't be surprised. I bet those tickets were expensive, too, weren't
I'm
they?
sure they were. Front row, man. Nothing but the best.
Yeah.
Folks, today we're going to brush up our botany, which we clearly need to do, in the first part of one of my favorite chapters in this book, of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit. Did I say herbs?
Wait a minute. Hang on.
You're going to
get all of our UK listeners are going to be like calling foul on that one. They're going to say it should be of herbs and stewed rabbit.
I know, and I know that's the UK pronunciation, but the US pronunciation is herbs because, Sean, really, if I say of herbs and stewed rabbit, I'm going to be thinking of things like Peaches and Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass.
With good reason. Yeah. With good reason.
Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Herbs.
No, herbs is fine with me. We're going to get some mail for it, but it's okay.
But we will.
I mean, we got to be consistent. If we say herbs, we got to say nomenclature, and I'm just not going to do it. So.
No, and that's true. We got to go with the UK pronunciation on everything. And
exactly.
Since our UK accents are terrible.
No, and we'll just sound pretentious.
Yeah, it would sound.
Not like we don't already, but still. All right.
That's fair, actually. That is 100% fair. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Of herbs and stewed rabbit, it is.
Fair enough.
And for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are reading and talking our way through Tolkien's stories of Middle-earth, a few pages at a time.
We dive into the details, point out connections to other writings, argue about how to pronounce herbs, and talk about our favorite themes as well.
And even have a lot of fun along the way when we're not arguing about how to pronounce herbs. So we're glad you've joined us.
And we know you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get into the chapter, it's time to check in with the rest of the fellowship in Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth.
Oh, yeah. And this is a great Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth, I have to say, because today in the story, it's March 5th. And while we're about to head out of this dell at dusk with Frodo and Sam, there's a lot that's been going on out west.
Oh, yeah.
Starting with the parley with Saruman that we saw last season. Alan, you want to start on that one?
Mm-hmm. I certainly do. It was such an eventful conversation, it took us 2 episodes to parse it. So we'll just remind you of a few of the highlights here, starting with a reminder of the power of the voice of Saruman. Suddenly another voice spoke, low and melodious, its very sound an enchantment. Those who listened unwarily to that voice could seldom report the words that they heard, and if they did, they wondered, for little power remained in them. Mostly they remembered only that it was a delight to hear the voice speaking. All that it said seemed wise and reasonable, and desire awoke in them by swift agreement to seem wise themselves. When others spoke, they seemed harsh and uncouth by contrast, and if they gainsaid the voice, anger was kindled in the hearts of those under the spell. And then a bit later, none were unmoved, none rejected its pleas and its commands without an effort of mind and will, so long as its master had control of it.
Wow. Well, and in fact, we do see how much effort it took for Theoden to reject Saruman's pleas in that voice.
Oh, yeah.
And we also see his men filled with doubt as he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember this from the text. "We will have peace," said Theoden at last, thickly and with an effort. Several of the riders cried out gladly. Theoden held up his hand. "Yes, we will have peace," he said, now in a clear voice. "We will have peace when you and all your works have perished, and the works of your dark master to whom you would deliver us. You are a liar, Saruman, and a corrupter of men's hearts. You hold out your hand to me, and I perceive only a finger of the claw of Mordor, cruel and cold. Even if your war on me was just, as it was not, for were you 10 times as wise, you would have no right to rule me and mine for your own profit as you desired. Even so, What will you say of your torches in Westfold and the children that lie dead there? And they hewed Hama's body before the gates of the Hornburg after he was dead. When you hang from a gibbet at your window for the sport of your own crows, I will have peace with you and Orthanc. So much for the house of Eorl. A lesser son of great sires am I, but I do not need to lick your fingers. Turn elsewhither. But I fear your voice has lost its charm. The riders gazed up at Theoden like men startled out of a dream. Harsh as an old raven's, their master's voice sounded in their ears, after the music of Saruman.
Which is exactly what we read would happen, right? That people would seem harsh and uncouth.
Harsh and uncouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, the battle of words and wills between Gandalf and Saruman was actually beyond all the other listeners. I'm going to take us forward in the chapter to that. They were shut out, listening at a door to words not meant for them. Ill-mannered children or stupid servants, overhearing the elusive discourse of their elders and wondering how it would affect their lot. Of loftier mold these two were made, reverend and wise. It was inevitable that they should make alliance. And then later, even in the mind of Theoden the thought took shape, like a shadow of doubt. He will betray us. He will go. We shall be lost. Fortunately, that fear disappeared when Gandalf took Saruman down a peg, breaking his staff, removing his color, and casting him from the council.
That's right, but Wormtongue wasn't done yet. He decided to toss a little something out of Saruman's window.
Mm-hmm.
A little something that just happened to be a very valuable dark globe that enticed Pippin and, well, tempted him beyond his strength.
Driven by some impulse that he did not understand, Pippin walked softly to where Gandalf lay. He looked down at him. The wizard seemed asleep, but with lids not fully closed. There was a glitter of eyes under his long lashes. Pippin stepped back hastily, but Gandalf made no sign, and, drawn forward once more, half against his will, the hobbit crept up again from behind the wizard's head. And then later, hardly breathing, Pippin crept nearer foot by foot. At last he knelt down. Then he put his hands out stealthily and slowly lifted the lump up. It did not seem quite so heavy as he had expected. Only some bundle of oddments, perhaps, after all, he thought with a strange sense of relief. But he did not put the bundle down again. He stood for a moment, clasping it. Then an idea came into his mind. He tiptoed away, found a large stone, and came back. Quickly now he drew off the cloth, wrapped the stone in it, and kneeling down, laid it back by the wizard's hand. Then at last he looked at the thing that he had uncovered. There it was, a smooth globe of crystal, now dark and dead, lying bare before his knees.
And Pippin knew full well that what he'd done was wrong.
Oh,
we
yeah.
talked about this.
Yeah.
And we see him, because he knows what he's doing is wrong, he actually takes his ill-gotten treasure outside to take a look at it. And we're told he's like a greedy child in a corner away from the others.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the text says.
Yeah.
And then, at first, the globe was dark, black as jet, with the moonlight gleaming on its surface. Then there came a faint glow and stir in the heart of it, and it held his eyes so that now he could not look away. Soon all the inside seemed on fire. The ball was spinning, or the lights within were revolving. Suddenly the lights went out. He gave a gasp and struggled, but he remained bent, clasping the ball with both hands. Closer and closer he bent, and then became rigid. His lips moved soundlessly for a while. Then, with a strangled cry, he fell back and lay still.
Wow.
Yeah, that worked out well for you, Pip.
Oh, yeah. Strangled cry, those are always, my favorite sounds.
Always a sign that things are just going smoothly.
Smoothly as can be, that's right. Well, the funny thing is, of course, it actually did work out well in a Spibimi sort of way.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, Not only did Sauron now think, erroneously, that Saruman had captured a hobbit, perhaps even the ring-bearer himself, but that incident kickstarted Gandalf's journey with Pippin to Minas Tirith that very night. Had Gandalf ridden with the Rohirrim instead, so many things would have turned out differently. And that is a sample of what's been happening elsewhere in Middle-earth.
Excellent. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of a trip back to last season, some of the last episodes of last season.
Mm-hmm.
But now, it is time to come back to this season, and Frodo, Sam, and Gollum, as they spend their last few hours in the little dell outside the Black Gate of Mordor before they head south. And Alan, you've got the first reading here, so why don't you start at the beginning?
Putting this episode together, it was really interesting because the last chapter, both halves, were almost exclusively dialogue. Right? They didn't go anywhere We saw a
Right.
description, of course, of the gates and the teeth of Mordor, but for the most part, it was a conversation between Frodo, Sam, and Gollum.
Right.
And this chapter has virtually no dialogue in the first third of it, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah, eventually we get a really great beginning dialogue as they run into Faramir in the end of the chapter. But for now, this first third is virtually all landscape description.
After this one little bit, yeah, that's it. And there's a lot of movement, a lot of landscape, and
Yeah. And
it's
a lot of
it's fun one.
trees. So
Quite a few trees,
that's
shrubs,
right.
herbs.
Get your botany ready and your herbology.
That's right.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I guess we do have to call it herbology because that's what it's called in Harry Potter, right? And it's Harry, not Airy. It's not Harry Potter and herbology.
That's true, but this is going to go down a serious rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. That's true. We better stop.
Or rabbit hole. I don't know.
Rabbit hole.
But better a rabbit hole than a hobbit hole.
Somebody help me, please. All right, here we go.
All right.
For the few hours of daylight that were left, they rested, shifting into the shade as the sun moved, until at last the shadow of the western rim of their dell grew long, and darkness filled all the hollow. Then they ate a little and drank sparingly. Gollum ate nothing, but he accepted water gladly.
"Soon get more now," he said, licking his lips. "Good water runs down in streams to the great river. Nice water in the lands we are going to. Smeagol will get food there too, perhaps. He's very hungry, yes."
He set his two large flat hands on his shrunken belly, and a pale green light came into his eyes. The dusk was deep when at length they set out, creeping over the westward rim of the dell, and fading like ghosts into the broken country on the borders of the road. The moon was now 3 nights from the full, but it did not climb over the mountains until nearly midnight, and the early night was very dark. A single red light burned high up in the towers of the Teeth, but otherwise no sign could be seen or heard of the sleepless watch on the Morannon. For many miles the red eye seemed to stare at them as they fled, stumbling through a barren, stony country. They did not dare to take the road, but they kept it on their left, following its line as well as they could at a little distance. At last, when night was growing old and they were already weary, for they had taken only one short rest, the eye dwindled to a small fiery point and then vanished. They had turned the dark northern shoulder of the lower mountains and were heading southwards. And that's where I'll stop for now.
All right. Well, let's go back to the beginning of the chapter and let's jump right into this, where
Yeah.
we see our heroes waiting strategically for the sun to go down, right? And this is really cool. They know that they need to stay out of sight here, and they're actually moving as they need to remain in the shade, right?
Yeah.
The sun's moving, they're kind of shifting into the shadows as the shadow moves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take a little food and drink.
Well, yeah, except for Gollum, who won't take the food, but he at least takes some of the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he tells them they're going to be able to get some really good water where they're headed.
That's right, because the streams that feed the Anduin are clean and they have good water.
That's right. That's right. Now, of course, with fresh water, Gollum also hopes that means he'll get food there, as he is very hungry, as he says, probably because he refuses the food.
Right, yeah, he won't eat lembas, and that's all they've got right now.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
But then we get that eerie, pale green light. I think Gollum's emerging just a little bit there.
I think that's what the green light is telling us for sure. And
yeah,
that's unpleasant. You've got Gollum coming out when he's hungry.
That's threatening. Yeah.
That's threatening. That is a threat for sure. So then after dusk, they finally get out of this dell, right?
Right.
You were alluding to this a moment ago.
Yeah. The entirety of the last chapter was in that dell. The last 2 episodes were in that one spot. Yeah.
No movement, just conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they head out over the western edge toward the borders of the road. And we get a mention of the moon and the fact that the moon is nearing the full. It's rising near midnight also.
Right. So it's a late night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the moon was definitely on Tolkien's mind when he wrote this. If you read The War of the Ring, which is the 8th volume of the History of Middle-earth, Christopher Tolkien says that in a letter from his father, which is letter number 63 in the Carpenter collection, Tolkien talked about struggling with a recalcitrant passage in The Ring. At this point, I require to know how much later the moon gets up each night when nearing full and how to stew a rabbit.
That is why I could never be a serious writer. Having to do all that research on things like that.
Seriously.
You have to know everything to be realistic.
Because unless my characters are just microwaving Hot Pockets, I mean, I'm
Right.
going to have to learn stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you know, maybe if my characters are making gumbo, I can probably walk them through that. But stewing a rabbit, I can't do.
I could probably have my characters grilling up a steak every night, but then they're going to need a cardiologist before we get to the end of the first chapter.
Right. Yeah. My characters would be eating ribs and drinking beer all the time because that's the stuff that I know how to do. Well, anyway, going back to the War of the Ring, Christopher says that from drafts and manuscript, it is easy to see what this recalcitrant passage was. The southward journey as far as the point where Sam's thoughts turn to the possibility of finding food more appetizing than the waybread of the elves.
Well, going back to the moon then, the fact that it isn't rising until midnight means that this part of the night, right after dusk, this is very dark, except for the creepy red light high up in one of the towers.
Yeah, this is not comforting at all. It's this light,
No.
as you say, high up in one of the towers of the teeth that seems to stare at them as they stumble through the first miles towards the road.
Yeah.
And as they head southwest, they keep the road to their left, trying to parallel the road
Yeah.
at a distance. But that eye still follows them for a while, doesn't it?
Roxanne. You don't have to, I don't want to know what orcs turn on the red lights, man. I don't know. I don't want to know.
Wow, no.
Turn on the red light.
There's a Sting joke in there somewhere.
There is a terrible
I can't
Sting
quite
joke
find
in
it
there.
right now,
No,
but
neither
there
can
is one.
I. It might be for the best that we can't.
It probably
find
is for the best.
You know, I mean,
well, maybe Frodo pulls out Sting, and Sting tells him they don't have to put on the red light. I don't know.
there you go.
Maybe that's it.
Something
That's terrible.
like that.
That's not funny, but I said it anyway. It's out there now. You can't take it back.
No, but we could edit it if we wanted to.
We could,
Or we could just leave it in and
or
let
we could
people...
just leave it in and just
Yeah.
leave it in there in a big puddle of flop sweat and banana peels and everything.
Oh, well, eventually this red light, this eye, does disappear as they round the corner of the mountains and head due south.
Yeah, and this is interesting because at this point the text says that their hearts were strangely lightened.
Yeah. I have to ask, was that because the red eye was no longer visible at the top of the Tower of the Teeth, or is there some other reason perhaps? What do you think?
I think that it's because of the red eye disappearing. I mean,
Yeah.
at least here. I mean, we're told that they're going to feel even better after they move on a little further. But I think at this point,
we'll see some transitional moments where they begin to feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
And a little bit better.
Start to feel a little bit of a reprieve and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, I think it really is just that light going away because that is creepy.
It was menacing, no doubt about it. And they must have felt very exposed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
But whatever the reason, they do end up resting, but
Yeah.
only for a short time. And Gollum says they're not going quickly enough. He's not happy with the pace they're making.
No, he tells them that it's 30 leagues, which, by the way, is 90 miles or about 145 kilometers from the Morannon to the crossroads. And he wants to cover that in 4 journeys, which is, well, not a lot of journeys. It's a lot of mileage. It's an average of 22 and a half miles or 36 kilometers per journey.
I just want to clarify that this is journey in its original sense of a day's travel, like the distance traveled in a day. Like, I mean, anybody who knows any French out there may recognize that the word journey actually comes from a French word meaning relating to a day. Journée is the French form of that.
All right.
But the original sense when the word was borrowed into English around 1300 was simply a day or a day's travel. Later on in the later 14th century, it started to mean any amount of travel. So a journey can be, weeks long. But that was a later meaning. But for some reason, despite all that, when you're talking about many journeys, all I'm thinking of is lots of little Steve Perrys.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Shows and and I'm afraid that's the only 2 members of Journey that I can name.
Yeah, that's going to be a no from me, dog. I have to admit, I don't know any of that, Sean, mostly because it comes from French, but I trust you, so I don't stop believing. Sorry.
Now, why did we have to go there? I don't know. I come to you with open arms and you lead me there.
Of course I do. Of course I do. So back to the text, of course, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum, they keep going all the way until dawn, but they go together because they don't go their separate ways. We'll stop, I'm sure, at some point. Anyway, by that point, they've covered 8 leagues. So that's 24 miles or 38 and a half kilometers. So they've definitely covered as much as Gollum would want them to cover.
Well, yeah, and they're exhausted by that point. So obviously the journey is over for that day.
Yeah.
And do you know how you know the journey's over?
No.
Well, it's when the lights go down in the city.
Oh, of course it is. Oh, goodness, Sean, man, we're going to get so many letters.
Bring on the hate mail, folks.
That's
Come
right. Bring it on, man.
Send it to barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com.
That's right. Poor Bartleman. So I have to say, though, Gollum has been leading them quickly and faithfully. And that's...
Stop. Please stop. Please stop.
Oh,
This has to stop. Really.
All right, Sean. Any way you want it. We're done. We're done with that. That is a pretty good pace, by the way, I have to say. Covering 24 miles.
I'm not even sure whether I should believe you at this point, but okay.
I'm not sure you should either, but I think I might just be out. So maybe you should believe me for, lack of ability at this point.
Yep. All right.
That is a pretty good pace, by the way. We've talked before, I think going all the way back to when the hobbits were traversing the Shire itself, that a pace of about 3 miles an hour walking is a really solid clip for a human on a long day's journey. And of course, they have longer legs than a hobbit.
Right.
So going off-road to get that far
with hobbit legs,
that's pretty impressive. I mean, just as a person, that's going to take over 7 hours of steady walking, not including breaks. So significantly longer for hobbits.
Well, and it seems that they had walked even longer than that because they kept on going until dawn, having started at dusk on March 5th.
That's right. Now, assuming that they're around 45 degrees latitude, and that is a reasonable assumption, folks. It's based on Tolkien's own maps and his placing the Shire in England and all of that. If that's the case, then dusk began just about 6 p.m. on March 5th, and it would have been pitch black by 7:30 or so. So if they started at, let's say, 7 p.m., dawn the next day begins around 5:30. So with a single short rest, they would have covered that 8 leagues, 24 miles, 38 kilometers. They would have done that in 10 hours of walking off-road.
10 hours of walking off-road, man.
Yeah. So no wonder they can't go any further.
Yeah, no kidding.
They are exhausted for sure. Sean and I are proud to welcome Giver to the PPP. Now, Giver, that's Givher, is the first gift-giving company of its kind. And folks, we all know that sometimes finding the perfect gift for your partner can be a pretty stressful experience, but that's where Giver comes in.
Yeah, Giver has done the research and the quality curation. They've got gifting figured out, and they promise to provide the perfect present, an indulgent experience for your busy partner.
Now, these gifts are really different from other gifts because the whole core of the Giver experience is that it's something you and your partner do together. It's about connection. Giver focuses on what's important, making happy memories with your loved one. I know my wife appreciated the experience of the gift as well as the gift itself.
My wife and I enjoyed not only making some happy memories with the gift, but also remembering some happy memories as well. One of the objects in the gift was the thing called the penguin's gift. It's a hand-selected pebble, just like a male penguin gives to a female as part of a courting ritual. That was especially nice for us because we've actually gone penguin watching in Australia before.
You have?
Yeah, a few years ago. Actually,
that is so cool.
Gosh, probably 15 years ago now.
No, wow.
Yeah.
Fun.
So that was a lot of fun for us, and we got to relive that. But look, even if you're not an expert on penguin courtship rituals,
Who is?
Who is? Giver has great romantic gifts for anniversaries, birthdays, and Valentine's Day. So head over to givehergifts.com and use code PPP at checkout for a 10% discount.
That's GIVHER gifts.com and use code PPP at checkout for a 10% discount. Now, before we get back to the discussion, we want to make sure you know that when you finish listening to this episode, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony Podcast.
Oh, it absolutely does. And that's because our wonderful listener community keeps the conversation going. Keep it going in all of our social media spaces, from our common room on Facebook to our Reddit community and Twitter and more.
On Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast, but be sure to follow both the page and join the group for some great discussions.
And you can find us on Reddit at r/prancingponypod. And we're also at Prancing Pony Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
And folks, if you enjoy the show, please do consider supporting us by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. And when you do that, you get a lot. You get an active Discord community, including live episode recordings. You also get postscripts, episodes without digital ads, free merchandise, and a lot more.
A whole lot more, actually. You get live Discord hangouts, you get a chance to be a part of our Questions After Nightfall episodes, or even join us as a guest in the North Wing. So please check out patreon.com/prancingponypod to support the show and become part of the fellowship of the podcast.
And if you enjoy the show, you can also help us out by giving us a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts. And please recommend us to your friends. All right, Sean, let me go ahead and have you pick up a little bit after I left off. We're going to have you picking up with the growing light.
Okay. The growing light revealed to them a land already less barren and ruinous. The mountains still loomed up ominously on their left, but near at hand they could see the southward road, now bearing away from the black roots of the hills and slanting westwards. Beyond it were slopes covered with somber trees like dark clouds, but all about them lay a tumbled heathland, grown with ling and broom and cornel, and other shrubs that they did not know. Here and there they saw knots of tall pine trees. The hearts of the hobbits rose again a little in spite of weariness. The air was fresh and fragrant, and it reminded them of the uplands of the North Farthing far away. It seemed good to be reprieved, to walk in a land that had only been for a few years under the dominion of the Dark Lord, and was not yet fallen wholly into decay. But they did not forget their danger, nor the black gate that was still all too near, hidden though it was behind the gloomy heights. They looked about for a hiding place where they could shelter from evil eyes while the light lasted.
I'd probably want to do the same.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So going back to the beginning of that passage, as dawn brings light to the scene, they notice that this land is already significantly better than where they were.
Sure.
Granted, that may be a low bar. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a pretty miserable place before, but it's encouraging that things are getting better and not worse.
Yeah, for sure.
And just as a reminder, by the way, it's the dawn of March 6th, right? I mean, yeah, we just did a Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth, but just as a quick aside, the dawn of March 6th. So Gandalf and Pippin are now on their way to Minas Tirith. They've already spent the first night on the road. Halbarad and the Rangers finally find Aragorn after crossing the Ison, and we'll catch that next season.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, I mean, it's not exactly a pleasant place, but it is getting better.
True.
But there's still a lot to feel nervous about. I mean, there's still these ominous mountains on their left.
Yeah.
But they can actually see a landscape now,
Yeah.
right? There's this tumbled heathland in front of them.
That's right, with living things on it, right? Ling, which is a common heather. Broom, which I admit I had to look up. It's a shrub with yellow flowers and thin stems. And then cornel, which is a dogwood shrub that has dark red branches and greenish-white flowers. But there are more plants, right? Because we read that those are just the shrubs they do know.
That's right. And there are lots of others they don't know.
That's right.
And there's even more that they know that we don't know.
Of course.
Which means that it's time to get out my flora of Middle-earth.
Uh-huh.
Now, we're going to be referencing this work a lot in
this
episode.
Tonight. Yes, very much so.
Walter Judd and Graham Judd, the authors of Flora of Middle-earth, they actually point out that Tolkien mentions about 50 different plants occurring in this region. Most of them are right here in this chapter, and most of those folks are going to be coming up in this episode. I mean, it's like, it's just rapid fire.
It really is.
Just one name after another.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, all these plants, the plants of Ithilien, get their own section in the book.
Yeah.
Of Flora of Middle-earth, because a lot of them are only mentioned once and right here.
That's right.
And there is a very good reason why the hobbits don't know a lot of these plants, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I want to leave that there for now because
that's definitely worth.
I think the reveal
out.
is worth lingering on a little bit. Yeah,
agreed. So not only do we have all those shrubs that they do recognize, we also get knots of tall pine trees, which is something they haven't seen for a while.
Mm-hmm. And then we see the result of all this life, right? This return of nature, and the result is that the hobbits' hearts are refreshed.
The hearts rose again in spite of weariness. I love it.
Yeah. And it's all about the scent of the air, the freshness, and the familiarity, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They're still physically exhausted after the long night's march.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they're still refreshed. That's right.
Yeah.
And they're specifically reminded of home. You mentioned that, right? Specifically, it's the uplands of the North Farthing that the text describes.
Right.
And so that fragrance reminds them of that. And of course, that gives them a reprieve. They get really a taste of, I guess, really maybe all three, right? They get a little bit of escape, they get a little bit of recovery, and a little bit of consolation here. But I think it's especially recovery, if I'm going to have to narrow it down to just one.
I think it is especially recovery. Yeah. This is a really nice break from just the misery, the death, the horrors they've seen.
Man, and the reminder of home must be so powerful.
Yeah, you're right. And all this, despite the fact that this is a land that's still under Sauron's dominion.
Yeah.
We are told that this is under the dominion of the Dark Lord. But it's only been that way for a few years.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't yet been fully destroyed or decayed. There's still some life here. But still, they know the Black Gate is close.
Yeah.
Even if they can't see it because it's behind the mountains that are to their left.
Right.
But they know it's close, and so they are going to look for a place to hide during the day.
That's right. And Sauron's creatures are out and about. There's no doubt. We've got to hide and find a place while the light is out to stay out of sight. And then they can continue the journey after the sun goes down. Yeah.
Right. And that takes us to the end of that passage, and you're going to pick up right there.
All right, then. The day passed uneasily. They lay deep in the heather and counted out the slow hours, in which there seemed little change, for they were still under the shadows of the Ephel-Duath, and the sun was veiled. Frodo slept at times, deeply and peacefully, either trusting Gollum or too tired to trouble about him. But Sam found it difficult to do more than doze, even when Gollum was plainly fast asleep, whiffling and twitching in his secret dreams. Hunger, perhaps, more than mistrust, kept him wakeful. He had begun to long for a good homely meal, something hot out of the pot. As soon as the land faded into a formless gray under coming night, they started out again. In a little while, Gollum led them down on to the southward road, and after that they went on more quickly, though the danger was greater. Their ears were strained for the sound of hoof or foot on the road ahead, or following them from behind. But the night passed, and they heard no sound of walker or rider. The road had been made in a long-lost time, and for perhaps 30 miles below the Morannon it had been newly repaired. But as it went south, the wild encroached upon it. The handiwork of men of old could still be seen in its straight, sure flight and level course. Now and again it cut its way through hillside slopes, or leaped over a stream upon a wide, shapely arch of enduring masonry. But at last all signs of stonework faded, save for a broken pillar here and there, peering out of bushes at the side, or old paving stones still lurking amid weeds and moss. Heather and trees and bracken scrambled down and overhung the banks, or sprawled out over the surface. It dwindled at last to a country cart road little used, but it did not wind. It held on its own sure course and guided them by the swiftest way.
All right. So they wait out the day, lying in the heather, trying to stay out of sight. And this is interesting. They're just counting out the hours, the unchanging hours, right? There seemed little change in the hours.
Yeah, exactly. This is a dull time, If they have good internet connection, I'd suggest catching up with the news or email, something like that,
I dare say this is another World War I memory.
Yeah, I
Tolkien,
think so.
Don't you think? Just like sitting around in the trench all day.
It's a lot of hurry up and wait. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And obviously, the alternative of, actually seeing some action is far worse. But,
far worse, right. You'd rather be bored than shot at. That's true.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But when you're bored, you're just counting out the hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Frodo's actually getting some sleep.
Yeah.
Now, the text says he's either trusting Gollum or he's basically too tired to care about him.
I love that.
What do you think it is?
That's a very good question. I look at that passage, and obviously we're told that it could be either one. It doesn't really give us a clue as to which it is. I think it's a combination of both.
I think it has to be a combination of both. I mean, definitely so tired that he just, it's like, he might strangle me while I sleep, but I got to get some sleep.
That's okay. I hope I wake up in time to stop him. Right. But at the same time, he trusts him because, he just told him he trusts him, right? If we go back to the end of the previous chapter, he says, all right, third time's a charm, basically. I trust you, and we're going to go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Frodo's actually able to commit to that, unlike Sam, who would never say that and would never do that, right?
Right. No, that is true. Yeah.
And Sam's not really trusting him here either, is he?
No, he's not, right? Sam's having trouble. I mean, that may not be what's keeping him awake.
That's true.
Sam definitely has trouble trusting him. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the text tells us that it's hunger that's keeping him awake.
Yeah. More than mistrust, but there's still mistrust there.
Yeah, exactly.
Worth pointing out.
If there was no hunger, the mistrust might still keep him awake.
Right.
But it's really the hunger for sure.
It really is the hunger here.
And it's because he wants something homely. I have to say, I think that's possibly a drawback of being reminded of home. Suddenly you want more of it. I mean, he's reminded of the uplands of the North Farthing. And I don't know about you, but scent has some of the
it's
most amazing
yeah.
ability to overwhelm you with memory, doesn't it?
Scent is powerfully tied to memory. I mean, I know I've read that before and I've experienced it. I
I
mean,
know.
you smell things like, just you smell a dish cooking that reminds you of something grandma used to make,
And
or
suddenly you find yourself practically transported there. I
yeah,
mean, it's a very real memory,
yeah.
almost tangible, more so than just thinking something. Yeah.
I mean, there are scents that remind me of specific vacations
Yeah.
I've taken in the past. Like, oh, it transports me right back to certain beach somewhere. Things
Yes,
like that.
exactly.
And yeah, it's amazing. It's powerful.
And I think because that's so potent, Sam finds himself missing home maybe a little bit more than usual. And in this
Yeah,
case, really longing for, as the text says, something hot out of the pot, right?
yeah,
He wants a good home cooked meal. Can't blame him.
absolutely. And although this might be the only time in this, well, certainly in this episode, that we're going to see scent have this effect. Well, maybe no. Maybe it's not the only time in this episode we'll see that.
Maybe not. We've got the herbs coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Or herbs. I'm sorry.
Peaches and.
I mean,
But we'll also see later on, we're going to see how a little bit of comfort makes them want more, right? I mean, we'll see this with Sam specifically.
yeah, that's
I'm
true.
thinking of near the end of this episode. We'll get to that, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So we see Gollum deep asleep.
Yeah.
I love this description. He's whiffling and twitching in his secret dreams. Now,
whiffling and twitching. That's terrible. Yeah.
whiffling is making a slight whistling sound.
Oh, okay.
Twitching just makes me think of like Andy Serkis's Gollum, just like when he's sleeping and he's like kind of talking to himself and he's all twitchy.
Yeah.
But whiffling is a new one for me.
That's funny. A light whistling sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if it's like congestion, like like
that's
his
what I'm
nose is
wondering. Sort of
whistling
a
'cause he's-
slight mouth breathing. Yeah.
Maybe so, yeah.
It's sort of, that not quite snoring yet, but sort of that,
Yeah, that's probably it.
something along those lines. Well, that's what happens when you have 9 teeth in your mouth. You're basically making a light whistling sound every time air is going in and out.
Wasn't it 6? I think it was 6.
6. That's
wasn't
right. It's 6. I don't know why I thought 9, maybe just turned upside down, but that's still 4 more teeth than the gates of Mordor have. So
You're like my son playing cards. Is that a 9 or a 6?
yeah, I don't know, son.
Count
Whatever.
the clubs.
Make it, yeah. Put a little underline under the 9.
There you go, just like on
Yeah.
dice.
Right, exactly. So, once night comes, they head out again. And this time, though, Gollum leads them out onto the road and not off of it.
Right, and because of that, the pace is quicker, but there's
Yeah.
also more danger, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so they're constantly listening for the sounds of anyone or anything, right? People
Yeah.
or horses, we're told.
Yeah, they heard no sound
Walkers
of
or
Walker
riders.
or Rider. That's
Mhm.
no sound of Walker, Texas Ranger. Or
Or Flynn Rider, I guess. I don't know.
Flynn Rider. There you go. I love it. And then we get this bit on the road itself, don't we? I love this bit, really.
This is wonderful. I do
Yeah.
love this paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
The road was made in a long lost time.
Yeah.
Wow. It's old, right? I mean, probably going back to the men of Numenor.
Oh, yeah. Second Age, for sure.
Yep. And for the first 30 miles, which is about the first third of the way, it had been kept in repair.
Yeah.
But then the wild encroached upon it as it went south.
That's right. Now, we're told that the skill of the men of old was obvious in the way the road was laid, right? It's straight and level path, cutting through slopes, going over streams. Clearly, like we hinted at, the work of the men of Numenor in the Second Age. Honestly, this is a genuine Eald Ente Iwerk moment, right?
It absolutely is, yeah.
Yeah. These are the ancient, but better than today's roads.
Right.
This is the work of giants, and it makes me think of the way the roads the Romans built were similarly advanced and used by other cultures for centuries, long after the fall of the Roman Empire.
That's right, yeah. And Rome was in large part the civilization that they brought to the places that they conquered.
Yeah.
Was, it was partly roads. That was one
It
of
was
the things they
infrastructure,
brought.
right? It was roads and
infrastructure.
aqueducts and
Right.
all sorts of things like that.
Right. And they had some of these roads, like, there's the Watling Street in Britain,
Uh-huh.
which is like one of the old Roman roads, and that's exactly what Tolkien is channeling here.
Yeah, it really is.
It is truly, you're right, it's a true Eald Ente Iwerk moment.
Mm-hmm. And not in the way of textual ruins. This is quite literally, the work of giants. Like
This
the
is
work
this
of
is a
people right
literal
before us.
ruin. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is an actual physical ruin. And it gets further ruined as they go south, right? Because
Yeah.
eventually
it falls in disrepair. Yep.
right, the evidence of this ancient stonework starts to disappear, and there's just a few broken pillars and old
Yeah.
paving stones. So you could kind of see signs that there was a road here at one time, but it's It's really been taken over by the wild. The wild
Yeah.
has encroached upon it. And it's kind of a symbol of the fact that this place has sort of been lost, hasn't it? Like it's not really quite
Exactly.
civilized anymore.
That's exactly right. And in a way, the wild encroached upon the road. One could argue that the road had encroached upon the wild, and the wild was just taking back what was
The
its.
wild is just, that's a very good point. Yeah. Treebeard would certainly see it that way.
Yeah, Treebeard certainly would. And so we get a description of a little bit of that, right? We get the heather and the trees and the bracken sort of either overhanging the road or on the surface of the road itself. And eventually it just becomes this, narrow little cart path.
Right.
But it's still straight as an arrow. So it still shows off the engineering, prowess of the men of Numenor in the Second Age.
That's true. There's still a sophistication there, isn't there?
Yeah. So we skip the next paragraph only because, well, we have to skip something somewhere. And that's where I'm going to have you pick up the next day.
Day was opening in the sky, and they saw that the mountains were now much further off, receding eastward in a long curve that was lost in the distance. Before them, as they turned west, gentle slopes ran down into dim hazes far below. All about them were small woods of resinous trees, fir and cedar and cypress, and other kinds unknown in the Shire, with wide glades among them. And everywhere there was a wealth of sweet-smelling herbs and shrubs. The long journey from Rivendell had brought them far south of their own land, but not until now in this more sheltered region had the hobbits felt the change of clime. Here spring was already busy about them. Fronds pierced moss and mold. Larches were green-fingered. Small flowers were opening in the turf. Birds were singing. Ithilien, the garden of Gondor now desolate, kept still a disheveled dryad loveliness. South and west it looked, towards the warm lower vales of Anduin, shielded from the east by the Ethel Duath, and yet not under the mountain shadow, protected from the north by the Aemon Muil, open to the southern airs and the moist winds from the sea far away. Many great trees grew there, planted long ago, falling into untended age amid a riot of careless descendants, and groves and thickets there were, of tamarisk and pungent terebinth, of olive and of bay, and there were junipers and myrtles, and thymes that grew in bushes, or with their woody creeping stems mantled in deep tapestries the hidden stones, sages of many kinds putting forth blue flowers, or red, or pale green, and marjorams, and new sprouting parsleys, and many herbs of forms and scents beyond the garden lore of Sam. The grots and rocky walls were already starred with saxifrages and stone crops. Primaroles and anemones were awake in the filbert brakes, and asphodel and many lily flowers nodded their half-opened heads in the grass. Deep green grass beside the pools, where falling streams halted in cool hollows on their journey down to Anduin.
Wow.
That is
You just listed
scene.
more plants than I knew existed in this world.
And I don't even know what most of these look like.
No.
But I do have Flora of Middle-earth, and most of them are listed in there.
Well, good, because we're going to be leaning on that quite a bit. But still,
Yes, we will.
if nothing else, it sounds beautiful, doesn't it?
It does. It's some very beautiful and exotic-sounding names. I mean, some of these names really have the sound of I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But they don't sound like the kind of names that you usually see in Tolkien. Let's put it that way.
No, that's true.
They don't sound like the Germanic kind of names you usually hear.
No, and we're going to get to the reason why that is.
Mm-hmm.
So they are now in the north of Ithilien, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And I've got a little word nerdery here on Ithilien.
Of course you do.
It is Sindarin for Land of the Moon. Now, that's from Ithil, moon. That's a fairly familiar one.
Mm-hmm.
But then the last part of it is actually a form of end, which is the suffix for land. Now,
okay.
It should actually have a D at the end of that. But this particular suffix takes a lot of different forms. Sometimes you'll see it with an A, like in Beleriand. Sometimes you'll see it with an A, but with the D dropped, like in Rohan.
Right.
Where you actually see there's like a longer form of Rohan, which is like Rohand, right? With a CH and an A and D.
Yeah.
You also see the suffix sometimes with an E, like it is here, like in Lothlorien or Ithilien.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you even see it with an O, like Eregion and Lindon.
That's right. Now, the place itself got its name from its ruler, Isildur, just like the land of Anorion got its name from Isildur's brother, Anarion, and their respective towers, Minas Ithil and Minas Anor, Tower of the Moon and Tower of the Sun, got their names.
Right. So if you haven't put two and two together yet, Elendil, the lover of the stars, named
Mhm.
his sons after the sun and the moon.
Right.
Anarion is literally son of the sun.
Yep.
That's like child of the sun.
Mhm.
While Isildur is servant of the moon.
I love that. I just think
Mhm.
that's so it's so fitting that
Yeah.
Elendil would name his sons Anarion and Isildur.
Sun and moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see that throughout, right? Like you
Oh,
said,
yeah.
also the names of the towers, Minas Ithil and Minas Anor. This sun moon thing
Mhm.
really goes right through.
I don't know that I'd figured that out with Ithilien and Anorian. I got it with Ithilien, but I had forgotten about Anor.
Anorian, yeah. Oh, you don't see it as much, do you?
No, you don't. It's not a land that is mentioned too many times. I think it may be part
Right.
of it. But so Ithilien is described, rightly so, I would say, as a fair country with forested hills and fast streams.
That's right. And remember, they started this day resting in some deep heather, and this
Mhm.
day for them began at dusk.
Right.
And it's a fine night
Sure.
with fragrant air. Frodo and Sam are loving this.
Yeah.
Gollum, not so much.
No, not so much. He's not a big fan of the fragrant air. But yeah, as the dawn nears, they stop. So now it's the dawn of March 7th, and we're going to try to keep you up to date on the dates. They've come through a cutting, and they've now climbed up the west bank of this cutting. I want to point this place out because we will be back. This is the same place later in this chapter where Faramir prepares his ambush of the Southrons.
That's
and
right.
then next season, we'll see it again. The enemy will attempt to ambush Aragorn and his forces on their way to the Black Gate right here at this very cutting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good catch. All right, so what do Frodo, Sam, and Gollum see from this bank above the road? Well, they see the Ethel Duath are curving east,
Yeah.
so the mountains are further away from the road now.
Yeah.
And they see gentle slopes head down to the west.
That's right. And then they see trees, lots and lots of trees, right? They see
lot of trees.
whole lot of trees, resinous trees. Of course, these are going to be coniferous trees, fir, cedar, and cypress. Now, these are trees that grow more commonly, and we're going to touch on this quite a bit coming up here, in a Mediterranean climate, as opposed to, say, spruce, for example.
Right.
And then, of course, we see other kinds of trees. We just don't know what they are. The text says unknown in the Shire. So the named ones, and there are a lot of named plants and trees, but the named ones are just the trees that the hobbits know.
I'm actually impressed that the hobbits know as many as they do, especially when we get to the next paragraph.
It must be Sam the gardener, right? I mean,
it must be.
Yeah.
But we see that this is a wealth of
Yes.
fragrant herbs and shrubs. That's the word used here. Hammond and Skull pointed out something really interesting here. They said that Tolkien added this account of the flora of Ithilien, including many culinary herbs, after he wrote in the following pages of Sam cooking rabbits.
That makes sense. I mean, remember what we talked about earlier. Tolkien had written to Christopher saying he needed to know two things: how much later the moon gets up each night, but also how to stew a rabbit.
So he's probably thinking to himself, well, if Sam's going to stew a rabbit, he's going to need some bay leaves.
Right,
you know?
exactly. I'm going to need to make a little
some
grocery
parsley.
list here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, this is the first time we're told that they recognize that they are truly in a different region of the world, right?
Yeah.
They know that they've gone far south from the Shire, but now that spring is coming and now that they're here in this place, they really feel the change.
They do. It's a very tangible change, yeah.
It is. And I have to say that the place itself has a lot to do with this because you hinted at this a moment ago, and now we're going to talk about it. This is a really Mediterranean feeling place.
Yes, it is. And that makes a lot of sense because North Ithilien is about 600 miles south of the Shire. That's about the same distance as the south coast of France is from Birmingham.
Okay. And this is something that Judd and Judd pick up on in Flora. They actually go a bit farther east than the south coast of France. They say they were now far south of their home, and since they were in a region with a warmer climate, they naturally encountered many unfamiliar plants. When these plants of Ithilien are mapped, their distributions are focused on the eastern Mediterranean region, especially the southern Balkans, Greece, and Turkey. This connection of Ithilien with the eastern Mediterranean also fits, given Tolkien's map of Middle-earth and the distance traveled by Sam and Frodo. The flora of Ithilien in the Third Age, therefore, should be envisioned as similar to that of Greece and Turkey today.
You know, that's fair. I was only thinking of the north-south difference and not the fact that they are also significantly
traveled
east than
significantly
east.
Yeah. So that's lovely. You know, now you're just imagining olive groves in Greece and
stunning.
That part of the world is so beautiful, and that's what they're in right now.
No wonder. I mean, you can almost smell it now. Yeah.
You absolutely can. You can smell just like fresh herbs and basil and marjoram and all this stuff that Tolkien's talking
rosemary.
about here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now spring has truly sprung too, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it has. I mean, fronds are piercing the ground cover. The larch has fresh branches. You've got flowers and birds, and it's just a great place.
They seriously needed a quick course in how to recognize different types of trees from
I
quite a
know. I
long
thought
way
the
away.
same thing from very far away.
Yeah.
Number one, the
The
larch.
The horse chestnut. Then we get, speaking of trees, this wonderful phrase that I absolutely adore.
Oh, yeah.
A disheveled dryad loveliness.
Isn't that a great phrase?
That is a turn of phrase, man.
It really, really is.
I love it.
And we'll talk about that for a little bit. This is the first time that we've seen the word dryad in the legendarium, but I think we've talked about it before. I would imagine if so, it was probably contrasted with naiad, which also not a word in the legendarium that we've encountered. It's something that we talked about as a possibility with Goldberry, I think.
Yeah, I think we did. And these are just two different kinds of nymphs,
Yeah.
nature spirits from Greek mythology, Greek and Latin mythology, I should say.
Yeah.
A naiad would be a water nymph, but a
Right.
dryad is a nature spirit or a nymph that lives in a tree.
Yeah.
And I think Tolkien's point here is that even though this is now becoming a wild and untended land, it's still a place where nature seems very much alive.
Yeah.
And I think that's really wonderful. But I also think it's fascinating to see Tolkien make a reference to Greco-Roman mythology. Like, again, like it's...
Yeah.
He generally uses Germanic words,
Yes,
Germanic
he does.
references. And here he's making a very explicit reference to Greco-Roman mythology.
Mm-hmm. That fits, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It fits with this region, with this flora that's very Mediterranean inspired.
Exactly. So he even moves into changing the language of his mythological creatures.
Yeah.
To go from
Yeah.
Germanic or even, inspired by Icelandic or other, northern cultures to something out of classical mythology, which he really has avoided for the most part.
He does generally steer away from it, and yet here it is.
Yeah.
And it fits really well with some of these names of some of these trees. I mean, I'm looking at things like tamarisk and terebinth, and
Yes.
these are clearly things that look like they come from Greek words.
Yeah, they do.
And it's a big change from what we usually see, the kind of language Tolkien uses.
That's true. Well, coming back to what they see, right? The land that they're looking out on, it looks to the southwest. So it's shielded from the east by the mountains. And from the north, it's also sheltered by the Emyn so it's really open to the moist air from the sea to the south. And I think that gives us a little bit of why the climate's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the description of the great trees and the fact that they were planted. So that again tells us that, the Númenóreans were busy.
Yeah.
Bringing a lot of these trees over, huh?
Yeah. A lot of these trees must have come, I would think, from Númenor itself, as opposed to from other parts of Middle-earth. And that, too, kind of reminds us of the fact that the Númenóreans often remind us of the Romans or the Greeks. So that's a really cool connection.
Yeah, it is.
But then these names, I know I've talked about some of this already, but I mean, we've got tamarisk and terebinth and others that are a little bit more familiar, olive and bay and juniper and myrtle.
Right. And then we get shrubs or plants rather than trees. We get thyme and sage and marjoram. We get parsleys, and we get, of course, many other herbs.
And then we get saxifrages and stone crops on the rocky walls.
Yeah, and primaroles and anemones growing between hazel trees. I had to look this up. I didn't know this, but a filbert brake is a clump of hazel trees.
I am so glad you looked that up because I had no idea.
Yeah, I thought it was something like a specialized bit on the car. He's slowing down at turn number 6. He's about to deploy the filbert brake.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's really terrible, but still kind of funny.
So it is terrible. It's probably because I've been watching too much Formula One lately. It's like a filbert brake is the thing that it's the secret brake that this team has.
Yeah, it's like the really special brake that was, invented by Todd Filbert in the 1970s.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And then we've got lilies growing in the deep grass, right?
Oh, I love it. Such a pretty scene, isn't it?
Yeah. And once again, Judd and Judd give us some great insight into these plants and flora.
Good.
As I said, we're going to be dipping into this book quite a bit this episode. Here I want to bring in a quote from them that says, in addition to this emphasis on a Mediterranean flora, Tolkien stresses that these plants are remarkably aromatic.
Yeah.
The air of Ithilien is fresh and fragrant. Particularly known for their fragrance are bay, cedar, cypress, juniper, myrtle, terebinth, marjoram, parsley, sage, and thyme. And no, I will not sing Scarborough Fair.
Oh, come on now.
Okay, fine, a little bit. Are you going to Scarborough Fair?
To Scarborough
Parsley,
Fair.
sage, rosemary, and thyme.
Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Okay, we're done.
Remember me. Okay, we can stop there because I don't know if I can go that high.
I know, boy.
Yeah.
They get up there for sure.
Simon and Garfunkel have greater range than I do, but that's not saying much.
Well, yeah. You're brave, though. I congratulate you on singing Scarborough Fair there. Well played.
You. I tried. I listened to a lot of Simon and Garfunkel when I was a kid, thanks to my mom. But anyway, back to the text here. The Judds don't really give a lot of symbolic meaning on every single plant that's named here. And
it's a good thing. We'd have an entire episode just on the plants.
Yeah, we wouldn't have time to mention every single one if they did. But there are 2 plants mentioned here that we wanted to share some of the symbolism around.
That's right. Now, the first one is myrtle, which Judd and Judd say is used as a fragrance or flavoring, but also the branches were used in garlands in ancient Greece and Rome. And in Jewish ritual, it is one of the 4 species used on the first day of tabernacles. So there is some spiritual and ceremonial use of this plant even today.
And then there's bay, which, in addition to being a common cooking ingredient in my house, was also known as the laurel. So when you hear about the laurel wreath that was awarded as a symbol of victory to athletes or generals in ancient Greece or Rome, that's what they're talking about.
That's cool.
Now, interestingly, the laurel tree, or the bay tree, is closely associated with the Greek myth of Apollo and Daphne.
Yeah.
Daphne, or Daphne in Greek, is actually just the Greek word for the laurel tree.
Oh, wow.
And Daphne was a nymph who, for folks who don't know the story, Apollo actually tried to seduce her, and she was running away from him. And she begged her father, who was a river god, to turn her into a tree so that she wouldn't have to give in to Apollo's advances.
Oh, goodness.
So, yeah, which is not only a fascinating mythological story, but it just kind of underscores the Mediterranean feel to this place, right? Because the laurel was the bay was such an important tree to the ancient Greeks.
Boy, you're not kidding.
In fact, was a tree closely associated in myth with an actual dryad.
An actual, right, exactly, with a nymph, right.
Yep.
Wow, that is cool. I love that. Well, coming back to some of the things that Tolkien has said about this land, in 2 letters to Christopher, Professor Tolkien points out what a beautiful place Ithilien is. The first one is letter 64, and this is the 30th of April, 1944. He's giving a brief synopsis, and he says that the hobbits and Gollum are, quote, at the moment in Ithilien, which is proving a lovely land. Well, just 11 days later, in letter number 67, he's talking about the end of this book, and he mentions the disaster at Cirith Ungol, where Frodo is captured. Story then switches back to Gondor and runs fairly swiftly, I hope, to denouement. Ithilien, optimistic there much, Professor?
Yep, you have no idea, Professor.
It does not run fairly swiftly to denouement, but that's okay. Yeah. And then he says to Christopher, Ithilien, you may remember its situation on the map you made, is revealed as rather a lovely land.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, something else from that letter, which is not really related to this chapter, but I think it's worth mentioning since we're talking about that letter. Right after that, Tolkien adds a little bit of paternal hope for his son when he says, I wish I had you here, doing something useful and pleasant, completing the maps and typing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Now, keep in mind that Christopher wasn't exactly doing anything pleasant at the time. He was at a Royal Air Force training camp in South Africa.
That's right. That was the series of letters that he sent in that time frame, right?
Right.
Wow. Cool stuff.
Well, let's go ahead and get back to the text here, and I'm going to have you pick up right where I left off.
The travelers turned their backs on the road and went downhill. As they walked, brushing their way through bush and herb, sweet odors rose about them. Gollum coughed and retched, but the hobbits breathed deep, and suddenly Sam laughed, for heart's ease, not for jest. They followed a stream that went quickly down before them. Presently it brought them to a small clear lake in a shallow dell. It lay in the broken ruins of an ancient stone basin, the carven rim of which was almost wholly covered with mosses and rose brambles. Iris swords stood in ranks about it, and water lily leaves floated on its dark, gently rippling surface. But it was deep and fresh, and spilled ever softly out over a stony lip at the far end. Here they washed themselves and drank their fill at the infalling freshet. Then they sought for a resting place and a hiding place, for this land, fair seeming still, was nonetheless now territory of the enemy. They had not come very far from the road, and yet even in so short a space, they had seen scars of the old wars and the newer wounds made by the orcs and other foul servants of the Dark Lord, a pit of uncovered filth and refuse, trees hewn down wantonly and left to die, with evil runes or the fell sign of the eye cut in rude strokes on their bark. Sam, scrambling below the outfall of the lake, smelling and touching the unfamiliar plants and trees, forgetful for the moment of Mordor, was reminded suddenly of their ever-present peril. He stumbled on a ring still scorched by fire, and in the midst of it he found a pile of charred and broken bones and skulls. The swift growth of the wild with briar and eglantine and trailing clematis was already drawing a veil over this place of dreadful feast and slaughter, but it was not ancient. He hurried back to his companions, but he said nothing. The bones were best left in peace, not pawed and routed by Gollum. Wow.
I want to get to that part in a bit.
Boy, I do too. Yeah, we'll get there. But let's get back to the beginning, huh?
Yeah, let's go back to the beginning and see where they head down the bank towards the west, downhill and away from the road. And I absolutely love this, how as they're brushing up against all the plants, they're basically releasing the lovely smell of all these herbs, all the oils that they're releasing from the leaves as they're walking past them.
It must be amazing, and it must smell fantastic.
Lovely.
Just fill the nostrils with all that smell. Mm-hmm. Gollum, of course, not a big fan, starts retching.
No, I mean, he's a bit dramatic sometimes.
He really is. I know. You're wondering, come on, really? Just hold your nose, man.
Yeah. It's like my kids when I feed them cauliflower. Like,
oh, I know. They pretend that you're serving them. Yeah, no, I know.
Poison, yeah.
Exactly. So the hobbits breathe deep, and I love it. Sam laughs from joy. Mm. He's not mocking Gollum's retching. He's just, his heart is so light that he can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
And that's just another one of these moments where they continue to get these moments of recovery. That's right. Yeah. Then they follow that stream, right? They get to a small lake in a dell. And I have to say, I don't know that I've noticed this before, but the lake is in the ruins of an ancient stone basin. What purpose might this have served back in the days of Numenor when it was built? Was this a reservoir, a ceremonial location? Was this, I don't know, public baths? What was this place?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a textual ruin, but I like the idea that it could be a bath because we know, and of course Tolkien would have known that there were Anglo-Saxon poems about the Roman baths. The Roman baths were one of the classic Eald Enta Eoeric. They would see these things like these things are amazing,
and a stream leads into it, so that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's a bath more than anything.
Yeah. This wasn't built during the dark days of Numenor. This wasn't a large bowl to collect the blood from the human sacrifices of that Ar-Pharazôn was, like slaying all the locals.
Oh, I hope not. That's terrible.
I'm sorry. Oh no, I think you're right.
I mean, that's grimly funny, but I hope not.
I hope not too. I mean, I know Ar-Pharazôn was a really bad guy, and I know they were doing terrible things and capturing all those people to make human sacrifices to Sauron at the temple, at the end of Numenor's, existence.
Have you seen my human sacrifice reservoir? It's like a Mel Brooks gag or something,
That is a Mel Brooks gag, isn't it? Oh, no, I think you're right. I think a bath is some sort of a ceremonial, public bath of some kind.
I hadn't thought of it until you suggested it. So you led me right to it, but I think that makes the most sense.
It does. And what's funny is I don't remember ever
noticing that it was here before reading this chapter for this episode. I know.
Seriously.
I don't remember ever thinking that there were Numenorian baths.
How many times have I read this book and I don't remember a stone basin? But, I think combined with the road, I think the bath makes the most sense.
Yeah.
We're seeing Eald Enta Eoeric. Yeah.
Yeah. But here again, we're seeing a place where, like you were saying earlier with the road, some civilization, something that men created was built here, and now nature's starting to take over again because we're seeing that the rim of the basin is overrun with mosses and rose brambles and other things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's water lilies on the surface of the water, but it is fresh water.
That's right, yeah.
And so they do what you're going to do, especially if this place looks like a place you could take a bath. They wash
Yeah.
and they drink at the water source. The freshet is the
Yeah.
word Tolkien uses there.
Which is just a little stream, right? That's what a freshet is.
Yeah.
So now they look for a place to rest and hide because as beautiful as this land is, it is still very much in Sauron's control.
It is. It is. And even in the short walk from the road, they've seen signs of that, right?
Boy, they have, right? We've got this uncovered filth, this uncovered trash, and then trees cut down for no reason. And not only cut down for no reason, but then the eye or evil runes carved into the trees, into the barks of the trees. This is Tolkien's love for the environment coming out, and his anger with those who misuse it. Yeah.
Yeah. And not just misuse it, but vandalize it.
Abuse it. Yeah.
They've defiled it, really.
They have. Defile's the word I'm looking for. You're right. The filth and refuse, and then the essentially graffiti on dead trees.
When Tolkien uses a phrase like dryad loveliness, he's really, he's talking about the purity of this place. He's talking about just sort of the unspoiled natural beauty of it. And Sauron's servants have just destroyed.
Defiled is the word, isn't it? You're right.
Yeah, they really have. I'm looking for another word to use, but defiled is the best word.
It really is.
They've ruined and just left, like you said, filth and trash, and it's disgusting.
Burarum, as Treebeard would call them.
Yes.
It's the same kind of thing that we saw in Fangorn. Trees cut down wantonly for no reason.
Right.
Except here now we also have the addition of, graffiti in
these
their
signs,
bark.
These runes in the
and
eye.
then just the litter, the pile of refuse. This is not good.
Yeah.
And Tolkien makes it very clear that this is not good.
Yeah.
These are signs of evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a really striking passage.
It is.
Really striking passage. And again, it's one that I don't think I really noticed that much on previous readings.
No, I was always so taken aback by the trees and the plants and the herbs. That's where my mind was. But as we do a closer read, you start to see these things. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also reminds me how much this foreshadows like the journey to the crossroads later on.
Oh, yeah.
There's
the evil runes carved into,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sam is reminded of the danger of Mordor as he searches below the lake, and he's actually he'd briefly forgotten, right?
Yes, so nice and so pleasant, and
reminded suddenly, of their peril, and he stumbles upon an old fire ring with a pile of burned bones and skulls in the middle.
Ooh, yeah, and it's not exactly fresh. I mean, it's not like there's still smoke coming from the fire ring, right? But this isn't ancient. This is reasonably fresh. This may be weeks or maybe months. The growth is taking over, so probably months, but it's not really an ancient site.
Right. This isn't something that's from the Second Age or anything like that.
No.
Not this pile of bones.
Mm-mm.
And then we get some more of those Mediterranean plants that are mentioned in Flora of Middle-earth. We've got like briar and eglantine and clematis, and
none of which I'm familiar with at all.
Time to be moving along.
Please don't throw me in the briar patch.
Splash Mountain, Brer Rabbit.
Oh, man. Brer Rabbit, Brer Bear. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's not a whole lot written about any of these plants in Flora. They're just kind of mentioned, but I think that this is probably actually the briar tree, not the kind of briar that Brer Rabbit's briar patch is, but I think this is actually like the briar tree that like they make pipes out of, because that's actually a Mediterranean tree.
Oh, okay.
I want to say it grows in like the Eastern Mediterranean and Northern Africa, like we were talking about.
Interesting. And I just Googled real quickly eglantine, and it's another name for it is called sweetbriar. And it is a species of rose native to Europe and Western Asia. So that's interesting.
So is that like briar rose, like Sleeping Beauty?
Maybe. I don't know.
I have a 7-year-old daughter.
I'm surprised. Yeah, and then clematis is another flowering plant, but this one is a climbing plant, so it's like an ivy type of thing. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I knew about that one.
Yeah, that's the only one I was even vaguely familiar with. Yeah. Well, so Sam, who normally doesn't have much of a filter, says what he thinks and says it pretty quickly. Yeah. Does think twice about this, right? He doesn't say anything about this grim discovery. He knows that Gollum would disturb the dead.
Yeah. And I hate to say it. I mean, I would love for this to be another place where I'm like, oh man, Sam's just assuming the worst. But no, I think he probably is actually right about this.
I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, Gollum would be looking for things of value and then possibly things to eat, which is even scarier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty grim.
No, so instead of talking about that, he just says, you know what, let's go higher up instead of lower down.
Yeah.
That's a good piece of advice.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm going to have you skip a couple paragraphs here and get to the part where Sam is giving serious consideration to their food problem.
Yeah, and the poor guy can't just order DoorDash, so
No,
he's
you're
gonna have to
right.
come up with something else.
Yeah. He opens up the app and it just says DoorDash doesn't deliver to your zip code.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You're out of area.
You're definitely out of area. Way out of area. Yeah.
All right, let me go ahead and pick this up.
All right, sounds good.
Sam had been giving earnest thought to food as they marched. Now that the despair of the impassable gate was behind him, he did not feel so inclined as his master to take no thought for their livelihood beyond the end of their errand. And anyway, it seemed wiser to him to save the waybread of the elves for worse times ahead. 6 days or more had passed since he reckoned that they had only a bare supply for 3 weeks. If we reach the fire in that time, we'll be lucky at this rate, he thought. And we might be wanting to get back. We might. Besides, at the end of a long night march, and after bathing and drinking, he felt even more hungry than usual. A supper, or a breakfast, by the fire in the old kitchen at Bagshot Row was what he really wanted. An idea struck him, and he turned to Gollum. Gollum had just begun to sneak off on his own, and he was crawling away on all fours through the fern. "Hi, Gollum," said Sam. "Where are you going? Hunting? Well, see here, old noser. You don't like our food, and I'd not be sorry for a change myself. Your new motto's always ready to help. Could you find anything fit for a hungry hobbit?"
Yes, perhaps yes,
said Gollum.
Smeagol always helps if they asks. If they asks nicely.
"Right," said Sam. "I does ask, and if that isn't nice enough, I begs."
Somehow, I'm doubting Sam's sincerity.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Kind of going through the motions on that.
Yeah, very much so. But going back to the beginning of that passage, they head up above the lake and they find a bed of old fern with a thicket of bay trees behind it, going up a steep bank with cedar trees. So again, lots and lots of plant descriptions.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then deciding that this is a good spot, they choose to rest and wait out the day here.
That's right.
And yeah, it would be a nice day to keep moving, but there's some good reasons not to do that.
There really are. I mean, orcs could be hidden anywhere, right? I mean, that's the whole point. They may not like being out in the sun, but they can hide in shady places. And of course, Sauron has other servants to fear. And then there's the very practical reason Gollum's not going anywhere. Yellowface is out, Gollum's not moving.
If the Yellowface is out, Gollum's not about.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. That was kind of bad, but we'll leave it there.
We'll see.
It's out now.
It's out now.
So Sam does begin to seriously think about the food situation.
Oh, he has to,
I
right?
really like the thought process here. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, first up, he doesn't share Frodo's pessimism about the end of their quest. Remember when we talked about this a few chapters back and, Frodo was like, "Oh, Sam, poor
Aren't
sweet
you
naive
adorable?
Sam.
Yeah.
Bless your heart, Sam."
Right, exactly. Yeah.
We're not going to make it. But, Sam is always a little more optimistic. And here he's just not willing to join that pessimism. And he thinks realistically as well, look, we need to save the Lembas or when the road is even harder. He's wise to think that, isn't he?
Even not even thinking about, even if he weren't thinking about the road back, he's just like, we're going to need it when the road is harder, like when we get into Mordor.
There's food here somewhere.
Yeah.
So we should get some food here rather than eat what we have in our bags that we might need some other place. Yeah.
Right. Especially because it's been a week since he thought that they had 3 weeks supply.
That's true.
So, yeah. 6 days or more, we're told. And I think it's actually a little bit more, isn't it?
That's right. It's actually been 8 days. That was the 30th of February. And it's now the 7th of March. Yeah.
Right. And he's right to assume that they'll be lucky to reach Mount Doom within that 3 weeks.
Yes, he is. Like we said, it's now the 7th of March. We all know they don't end up reaching Mount Doom until March 25th. That's 18 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 26 days from the time he thought they had 3 weeks supply.
Right.
So do the math. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and of course, Sam, being as optimistic as he is, thinks, well, they might just want to get back too. Yeah.
Yeah. We might need some food for the return journey.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just the long-term food situation that's making him think of food now, right? He's actually hungrier than usual now.
Right.
And we're told why. It's the long march plus taking a bath and having a drink.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a bit like an appetizer for him. And
I thought the same thing.
It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier where, you have a little bit of comfort and suddenly you want more, right? Your brain starts to get into that mode where you're starting to want more comforts.
He's in that homey sort of mode, and now he wants,
Yeah.
what's the text tells us? He wants a supper or a breakfast by the fire. I actually think he means brupper.
I'm sure he does mean brupper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he doesn't want suckfist.
There is no such thing.
There is no suckfist, only brupper.
Only brupper. That's correct. Yeah.
So then this gives him an idea, and he turns to Gollum, who's just in the process of sneaking off right now, and Sam asks him, well, I don't know. That's generous. He kind of demands, not very kindly.
Asks is very generous indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, "Where are you going, Gollum?"
Yeah. And he calls him an old noser, which simply means that Gollum is inquisitive, I guess, to put it mildly, or nosy, as the case may be. And I love the way Sam phrases it. I have to admit, he does a good job here. He suggests this as a win-win. You don't like our food, and I wouldn't mind a change.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, Gollum is not quite as picky as Sam is. So
well, no, that's
Gollum
true.
doesn't really need what Sam's going to prepare.
Gollum will just dig in the dirt and find some worms. Sam's not going to go for that. Right.
Yeah, but we'll get there next episode, I guess.
Yeah.
But then Sam says, look, since you're always ready to help, why don't you go find something? Let Gollum do it. He'll do it.
Right. Let Gollum do it. He's always ready to help.
Always ready to help.
We should get t-shirts with Gollum on there. Always ready to help.
We should. What's your new motto? Oh, always ready to help.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
What's your new motto, Sean?
I don't know. Maybe fit for a hungry hobbit?
Nice. Well played. Well played.
No, that's terrible.
That's terrible in the sense that,
here.
Are you going to be cooked and eaten or smushed into jelly and spread over so much bread?
I think it's just something that our show is fit for a hungry hobbit.
There you go. The PPP fit for a hungry hobbit, not Sean fit for a hungry hobbit.
No, not me personally.
Okay.
But I can provide you with something that's fit for a hungry hobbit.
Fair enough.
How about that? I don't know. That is a terrible one. I might have to come up with another.
That's okay. I don't know what my new motto is, so.
Well, and I think Sam probably should have been more specific than fit for a hungry hobbit too, right? Because
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Gollum's interpretation of what's fit for a hungry hobbit is probably different than Sam's.
Yeah. Like, well, how hungry are you really, Sam?
Yeah. I mean, now granted, he will come back with something perfectly acceptable to Sam.
Sure.
Who knows what he might have come back with otherwise?
Yeah. Some grubs, some worms.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not so nice. No. So, Gollum starts out with a maybe, but I love this. Well, yeah, sure. I always help if they asks. If they asks nicely. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah.
Right. It's like, I see what you're doing there. Okay. And Sam does. So he does. So he asks and then, I begs.
Yeah.
But I mean, like we were saying, like he's not really sincere with that. I think it's a bit pro forma here, isn't it?
It really is pro forma. He's not like, you know what, Gollum, I want you to know how much I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to do us a huge favor and go out and find us some food? I'd really appreciate it. Please. That'd be so kind.
This is the bare minimum in order to qualify as begging. It's like, all right, fine. Then I begs.
Yeah, fine. I asked nicely. If that's not nice enough, I'll beg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we begs for our mail from Bartleman, and that's still not good enough. But sometimes it is. Sean, what does Bartleman have in the mailbag for us this time?
Well, since Sam and Gollum are just starting to get some bro time together here at the end of this episode.
Bro time?
We've actually got 2 questions about Sam and Gollum.
Oh, right on.
First up, Jillian W. asks, you guys seem to enjoy hypothetical questions.
Well, she knows us well.
You know us well, Jillian. Thank you. So how do you think Sam might have fared in Bilbo's place, meeting Gollum for the first time?
Oh, wow.
I think what she means if Sam had met Gollum in Chapter 5 of The Hobbit instead of Bilbo. Or what would it look like if Sam somehow had the chance to meet Gollum without assuming the role of Frodo's protector?
Oh, my.
Well, Alan, you want to start this one?
Oh, sure. Jillian, like we said, you're right. We enjoy hypothetical questions, so that's good. As far as hypotheticals go, that sure is an interesting one. I think we have to start, if we're going to consider this question, we have to start by setting aside the antipathy that this Sam has against Gollum, right?
Yeah, I agree.
If we're going to put him in Bilbo's shoes, meeting Gollum for the first time, he doesn't have all the baggage that contributes toward his current dislike and distrust of Gollum. So, a truly blank slate.
Right.
Given that, I honestly have to say, I think he would act pretty similar to Bilbo. I mean, he'd be courageous, not willing to back down, coming up with some clever riddles. They'd probably be different riddles given Sam's background versus Bilbo's, more educated background. In fact, Sam might not know some of the riddles. Sam might have gotten himself eaten. But I'd like to think he would have survived.
That's a good point. He probably wouldn't know as many riddles as Bilbo did, yeah.
Right. Probably not, because he's not as educated. Would he be as lucky as Bilbo and stumble onto the last answer, time? I don't know. But assuming he did, I think the question really is, what does he do near the back door of the Goblin Caves? Does he spare Gollum out of pity? I think he does. I mean, remember, this is a clean slate, right?
Mhm.
This is the same Sam that later in this chapter, we see wonder if a Southron was really evil of heart after seeing them attack Faramir and his men. So I think if we assume that blank slate, yeah, Sam acts like Bilbo and spares Gollum. Sean, what do you think?
I know I'm going to shock no one with this, but I do generally agree with you. Yeah.
I'm stunned. Yeah.
I know, right? I mean, yeah, Sam hates Gollum, and we might be led to believe that, oh, yeah, well, Sam hates Gollum. He would have just killed him.
Right.
But you're right. Why does he hate Gollum? Well, okay, if you're asking me why I think Sam hates Gollum, I think A, because he is Frodo's protector.
That's right.
And he sees Gollum as a threat to Frodo, correctly.
Yeah.
And then B, there's kind of a more existential thing going on here where I think Sam recognizes that Frodo could become like Gollum if he had the ring for long enough and he wasn't doing what he's trying to do by destroying it and all that. And I think seeing Gollum disgusts him because he sees how Frodo could turn into that.
Yeah, it's fear. Yeah.
It is. And I think there's some fascinating psychology at work there, but it is all conditioned entirely on the circumstances they're in.
That's right.
And like you, Alan, I think that without those circumstances, if Sam had found Gollum in the cave where Bilbo did, he would not have all that baggage.
That's right.
I think it's worth considering the passage in which Bilbo makes the fateful choice to spare Gollum's life, and I've got it right here.
Good.
The text tells us he was desperate. He must get away out of this horrible darkness while he had any strength left. He must fight. He must stab the foul thing, put its eyes out, kill it. It meant to kill him. No, not a fair fight. He was invisible now. Gollum had no sword. Gollum had not actually threatened to kill him or tried to yet. And he was miserable, alone, lost. A sudden understanding, a pity mixed with horror, welled up in Bilbo's heart. A glimpse of endless unmarked days without light or hope of betterment. Hard stone, cold fish, sneaking and whispering. All these thoughts passed in a flash of a second. Now, take a look at that text and think about what we know about Sam.
Yeah.
And you've already talked about this, Sam having that realization about the Southron.
Mm-hmm.
Can we see Sam making the same decision Bilbo did in that moment based on him having those same realizations that Bilbo had about Gollum's nature?
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely can.
I agree.
I absolutely do see Sam making the same decision.
I do too.
I
do too. Sam, we see Sam being angry, but like you said, there are reasons for that, but those reasons are all reasons related to Frodo and the ring. And I think if we put him in Bilbo's situation, he ends up with that same sudden swell of pity. And I think he listens to that.
Pity.
He's a very emotional guy.
He is. Yeah. He is very emotional. And I think we've even talked on the show before about how Sam really has a lot in common with Bilbo.
Yeah.
In his adventure, and even more so than Frodo now has with Bilbo. Because, both Sam and Bilbo they both had sheltered lives. They're both somewhat educated. Bilbo's more educated than Sam, of course.
By quite a bit, yeah.
But, when we see Frodo in this book, he's already been labeled an elf friend, and he's much more...
That's true.
He's just got much more world weariness and much more knowledge and experience about the world because he was raised by Bilbo.
That's true.
Sam is definitely more like Bilbo than Frodo is, and I think we can expect that he would have made the same choice.
I think so, too.
Well, I know we have time for one more, Alan, because we specifically chose these Sam and Gollum questions to go together. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what we have for the second one?
All right. Well, we've been holding on to this one for a few years, I think. Abby W. in the UK. Hi, Abby. I hope you're still listening. I mean, it's been a few years.
Hi, Abby. Thank you for your patience.
She's got a long one for us. She says she was intrigued by some brief comments about people being other people as they should have been. Gandalf being Saruman as he should have been, Faramir being Boromir as he should have been. This got me thinking, she says, and I wondered if there might be an argument that Sam is Gollum as he should have been. It seems to me there are quite a few parallels between the two. And then she goes on to list several parallels, all of which are pretty clear. Both are hobbits. Both encounter the ring through a close relationship with a loved one. Gollum, of course, chooses to murder his friend and steal the ring, setting the course for his life. Sam, on the other hand, chooses to follow and help his master in his quest to destroy the ring, thus setting the course for his life. Both are ring bearers, but Gollum loses the ring, or has it taken, while Sam chooses to give it up. And of course, in the end, Gollum's path means the ring is destroyed, while Sam's path means that the ring gets to the place where it can be destroyed. I just wonder, she says, whether if Gollum had made different choices, he might have ended up more like Sam, and I wondered what your thoughts are on this. Sean, what are your thoughts on this? Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, there are a few similarities, to be sure, and Abby's pointed out some of those, and there are some very pointed contrasts between Sam and Gollum.
Quite true.
You know, we've already answered some what-if type questions about Gollum before when we talked about the idea that Smeagol already had a seed of evil in him before he got the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then with some listener help, we found the passage in letter number 181 where Tolkien says flat out that he was already a mean sort of thief before the ring even crossed his path.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of that stuff, but it is an interesting suggestion to consider whether Sam is Gollum as he should have been, or is he even, the kind of companion to Frodo that Smeagol should have been to Deagol.
That's fair.
Hello, loved one who's introduced me to the ring. I am not going to kill you.
Yeah. I shall start my day by not murdering you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We've talked about the idea of Gollum making different choices, like you said, and how that would have led, of course, to different outcomes. Do I think that would have made him more like Sam? I don't think so. Like you mentioned, he was already who he was long before the ring came along. In fact, the ring preyed on his weaknesses and took his mean nature, right? That mean thief, that mean sort of thief. The ring took that nature and made it both larger and more central to Gollum's identity. So the question is Sam Gollum as he should have been? I think it's a reasonable question, but in a way, I struggle with it because it presupposes the idea that Gollum should have been something else. We look at those other two illustrations, the, Saruman specifically, right? Gandalf is Saruman as he should have been.
Yeah.
Gollum's not a wizard gone awry like Saruman, who really should have been more like Gandalf. I mean, Saruman was expected to conduct himself the way Gandalf did by the Valar who sent him, right? So, I mean, there's some proper expectations for Saruman's behavior. He's also not Boromir, right? He's not the eldest son of the Steward of Gondor, first in line to take over the leadership of an entire nation. He could rightly be expected to bear up under the temptation of the ring, and, who didn't? What should Gollum have been? I mean, that's a good question. If we're going to ask the question, is Sam Gollum as he should have been, then we have to ask the question, what should Gollum have been? Okay, we know what he shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have been a murderer. Yeah, that I think is pretty clear. But what should he have been positively? I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure I'd reach the conclusion that Sam is Gollum as he should have been, because ultimately Sam is Sam and Gollum is Gollum. Gollum shouldn't have killed Deagol, but I can't say he should have been like Sam.
I like that answer a lot.
Well, cool. Woo.
Congratulations. Your co-host likes your answer.
That's great.
No, it's a really good answer, because as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, like, it is a very intriguing idea to think of Sam being Gollum as he should have been. But as you're talking, I'm finding myself wondering, like, is that fair to Gollum? Like, is that even fair to Sam?
That's a good point.
For him to be this, exemplar that Gollum is supposed to be. Like you say, Sam is Sam and Gollum is Gollum. And though they're both hobbits and they're both fairly rusticated hobbits at that.
Very, yeah.
The character traits and the circumstances that made them each who they are were very different. Very much unlike Gandalf and Saruman, who were beings of the same order who took a similar path to becoming wizards.
Yeah.
Or, like you said, Faramir and Boromir, who were literally brothers and raised in the same house.
Right.
I'd go so far as to say that Sam and Gollum are classic literary foils.
Yeah.
From a literary perspective of what purpose they're serving in the book. The differences between them are each highlighting aspects of each other. The differences between them, we learn more about Sam from seeing how Gollum is different and vice versa. And yes, there are virtues in Sam that would make Gollum a better person than he is if he had those same virtues. So, like Sam's loyalty or his humility, his steadfastness.
True.
Obviously, Gollum has any of those traits that Sam does. Yes, that makes Gollum a better person.
His lack of willingness to kill people. Oh, wait, except that Sam is willing to kill people. He just hasn't done it.
Well, he might fantasize about killing people, but, how willing and
When
able
it came
is he
down
really
to it,
kill
would
somebody?
Sam have done that, and Gollum in his sleep? No, probably not.
Right. He may fantasize in anger, but
Sure.
but would he actually do it? We don't know.
And I guess that actually proves another point. Sam isn't exactly perfect.
That's true. No.
So is Sam Gollum as he should have been? Well, probably not.
No, because Sam's not perfect either.
No.
Sam certainly is not. I don't think that Sam is even as uniformly virtuous as Faramir is or Gandalf is.
No, I would agree with you 100% there. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some things that we see in Sam that show us who Gollum really is and how Gollum could be better. But Sam and Gollum are also there to highlight aspects of Frodo's character too.
Yes, that's true.
And you could make the argument that there are virtues in Frodo that would make Gollum a better person too. I mean, especially in his relationship to the ring. If Gollum had the strength to do what Frodo is doing right now, would Gollum be as corrupted as he is? Of course not.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think it's right to say that Sam is Gollum as he should have been any more than Frodo is.
That's
I think
fair.
that Tolkien would say that Gollum, as corrupted as he is, still had something, a certain je ne sais quoi, that was important to the quest. And he had something, right? He had something that was needed for the quest, and he deserved a chance to play his part because of whatever those traits were.
Sure.
And not because he should try to attain some kind of essential Samness.
Ooh, no, but now I've got to attain some essential Samness, man.
We all needed some essential Samness in life, don't we?
Yeah, Samness. I love that.
So yeah, I think I'm with you, but I think it's a fantastic question. So thank you. Thank you so much for that, Abby.
Very
That's
much.
A great question. And I sincerely hope you're still listening after we didn't answer your question for several years, but we were waiting for the right moment, and I hope we chose it.
We really were. Thanks for your patience. But folks, that does wrap it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Still, be sure to join us again next week when Sam stews a couple of conies.
Oh, and I'm sure we won't make any jokes about taters, Precious.
No, I will make sure to root those out. Sorry.
Wow.
That's terrible.
That's just terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I don't even have anything to come back with on that because it was just so awful.
That was
and I'm
really
saving
bad.
my potato jokes for next
Even
time.
with a bag of chips, that's a bad set of puns right there.
That was all that awfulness and a bag of chips.
Yes, it was.
Well, please, let's take a moment to thank the team that helps make this show better.
They make this show better by not giving us any of these terrible puns.
They do. Yeah, no, that's all us. All that is us.
That is true. The bad stuff is us.
And those folks are our research assistants, along with our barlowman, Becca Davis, our producer, Jordan Rennells, social media manager, Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator, Katie McKenna, and website guru, Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, be sure to give us a visit there at theprancingponypodcast.com. We've got show notes, hilarious outtakes, we've got Prancing Pony ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get all sorts of PPP merch.
And you're definitely going to want to check out our library page. You know we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we've provided links for you to get nearly every book we mention on the show. And we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you.
Now, we also want to thank some more really important people, our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. I'm going to start with DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, B in California, Joseph in Texas, and Kathy from North Carolina.
And then we have Lori from Washington, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Ned from Connecticut, Jerry from Washington, Ryan from Alaska, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Hal from Washington, D.C., Lucas in Germany, Damien in Pennsylvania, Lise in Switzerland, and Dylan in Australia. Folks, thank you all so much for your support. And everyone listening, please be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is.
That's right. And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your new mottos to Barlaman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
First in flight. That's what I'm going with.
Thank you, North Carolina. I appreciate that. You going to borrow more mottos off license plates while you're at it?
Might as well. It's a funny thing. I've never even been to North Carolina.
Neither have I.
Don't mess with Texas. How about that one?
Fair enough. All right, I'll take that one. Folks, if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, and at this point I'm willing to have anybody else's voice heard but my co-host, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Just make sure to still send the question to Barlaman, all right?
Yeah.
Now, Barlaman's a lot more reliable than he used to be, but we do get a lot of mail, so we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.